Right on time for our Kickstarter conversation. And so last week, Parliament cleared the government to buy 2 Bombardier planes at the cost of 280 billion Uganda shillings. Now, the money is meant for the final measures of restoring the national carrier. Now, Parliament, however, set tough conditions for government, but the House Committee on Budget, chaired by the North Member of Parliament, Mr. Amos Lugobi. Now, some of these recommendations include
the transfer of management of the national airline to the Ugandan Development Corporation, to the disbanding of the airline's interim board of directors by the end of April 2019. Then the weakness at the policy making level be addressed urgently. The interim board members are also full-time employees of the government and extremely busy in their substantive public offices, and that the shareholders must appoint a substantive and a competent board in any case not later than April 30th, 2019. In the new arrangement, the government owns 100% shares in the national carrier with 200 million Uganda shillings nominal capital divided into 2 million shares, each valued at 100 million Uganda shillings. However, while the Minister of Works and Transport, Minister Monica Azuba, insisted all due process has been followed, her finance counterpart seemed to disagree, and he actually apologized for the mess. Right.
And so to have that conversation and just to break this down and to understand what exactly has been happening with regards to our national carrier, our baby that is coming on board very soon.
I saw pictures of the business class this morning.
Yes.
On Facebook, and yeah, it looks comfy.
Yes, it does. So we have Mr. Paul Twebaze, the chairman of the Uganda Contracts Monitoring Coalition, right here with us. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm okay.
It's April Fool's Day, but we're not going to lie to the viewers,
right?
I
thought that was maybe for fools.
Not at all. Actually,
Uganda Airlines. It's one of those things that we're very excited about. But at the same time, you understand where the worry is coming from.
Yes.
Because of previous incidents and management of Uganda Airlines. It's not the first time we're having Uganda Airlines. It was, let's say, mismanaged before. Yeah. So now we have a new one that is in the pipeline. There's just jets should be on Entebbe Airport very, very soon. We've been hearing constant news of how much the pilots are going to earn, how much shares we have. Of course, there was a twist from 1%. I think someone removed the 2 zeros to 100% now. First, your take on the whole process.
Good morning, our viewers. My take on this is that we have less information to the public, because even it is very clear that even government institutions that would be partly playing a very big role in this are also not aware. And this is the reason we see collision even between the key players, the disagreement right from the start. Uganda Airlines, as you said previously, was mismanaged. And for me, I think we should have learned a lesson from the previous cases. And given the sensitivity of the sector that we are dealing with, the airline itself, the Ugandans, and of course, other people that intend to use the airline, still have quite a lot of fears when we see this start like it is now. We expected, of course, to access details of this information as Ugandans right from the beginning. But the case is that we tend to get some of the information in the bits at a time when there has been a mess.
Right.
Other than following the details right away from the inception and initiation.
But let me ask you a question, and these are questions that are coming through on, on social media. We did stream live the debate in Parliament on Friday here on NTV, and many were asking, were it not for Honorable Jonathan, Odur, to come through and say that this did not go right. There was forgery that took place with regards to the signing of the contracts, and us having all this, information coming to the fore, and still Parliament going ahead to approve the 280 billion supplementary budget to actually acquire these planes. What do you make of these instances? Do we say that these were genuine errors that were made, or deals gone wrong?
From that to this level, I don't believe even in genuine errors. An error is an error. And you see, this is what continues to make the public lose trust in government institutions. Because we have had series of what I may call common mistakes, repeatedly. The other time we had the Minister of Finance in our oil and gas sector say that I signed this not knowing. And in the same ministry again, we have apologies and transferring or apportioning blame to the technocrats for having erred in the documents, because even the documents that registered this company, the shares had been registered in the names of individuals, not as government representatives. So when you come at this stage and say, this was a technical error, this was a technical error, we actually fail to continue having a similar trust as the Ugandan citizens, because we believe Uganda has the necessary competence in terms of individuals. We have trained the people, and we think by the time a minister looks at the final work, then it is good to go.
Besides the confusion and coming from the two ministers, one disagreeing with the other, earlier on he said there's not enough information given to the public. How much information do you need to have? Because you're aware of the jets that are coming in, the number of jets, you're aware of the percentage that we own, you're aware of the money that is being spent. How much information do you want the public to have?
For me, I think this business is for Ugandan citizens. Government is only doing this business on our behalf. And there isn't any reason why we should measure the information that we need to have. Why not have full disclosure? Why don't we have participation of the public even right there from the initiation? Why do we need to wait to learn all this late when there is collision? For me, the thinking is government needs to start providing information under reactive disclosure. We need to have a situation where information will always come to the public quite before. Right there from the planning process, we needed to know that actually government, of course we have had pieces intends to do this. We all know that actually the Uganda Airlines was going to be revived, but we didn't have the details of who will own what at the end of the day. And the contractual information itself, we are not aware. For example, I don't know whether it is because for me I've not dug for this information, but I think this is information that should be quite a lot in the public.
All right.
Because first of all, we are customers to the airline itself, and we need to know. So the first bit of marketing the airline itself should be about providing sufficient information. I've had a discussion with a few Ugandans. They have fears about the airline itself, and then if we cannot be able to convince the Ugandans to take aboard their own airline, who will be traveling with these aircrafts, because most of them have fears.
Right.
Because and you know, in the airman's language, they'll tell you, that thing here, someone will misuse the hydraulic, and then maybe the landing gear will jam and we die.
Right. Speaking of that, we actually do have bites on what exactly did transpire last week in Parliament. Let's take a look.
Individual. Mr. Speaker, we do not want to sit here and sound as if we are not for Uganda Airlines. We are for Uganda Airlines.
That government incorporated Uganda National Airlines Company The company, Uganda Airlines, has never been owned by any individual other than the government of Uganda.
But you know me, Parliamentary, I have always apologized. When I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's a fact, you cannot deny it. Yeah, I would like to apologize on behalf of my ministry. She will do her own for anything that did not come out smartly. At my ministry, we believe that things must come out smartly. If you are not sure, don't talk. If you don't know, research, so that when we come out with the real facts.
That we give the committee to get time to look at it and assess how it impacts on their early report and whether they now have to advise plenary either one way or the other.
You know, questions have been coming through, and if there are all these issues to do with, lack of clarity with regards to the contracts, with regards to the ownership, and all these issues were brought about in Parliament on Friday, and yet Parliament moved ahead to approve this budget. So what could be the game that is being played right here? And these are questions that are coming through. What could be simmering underneath?
I think my thinking is that Parliament has been forced to pass this budget because of the fears of losing or fear of coming into a situation where they end up losing much as a result of failure to abide by their contractual obligations.
Losing much, you mean?
Yes, too much money with the Bombardier, because the company that is actually building the aircrafts already has, I think, a contract with government. And at the end of the day, if government does not fulfill its commitments, it comes back now to them in terms of course, there will be illegal shoots. At the end of the day, we have to compensate. So we entered into a situation of where we need to say, as we clean our house, as maybe Parliament and government of Uganda, we need to leave the process moving on. Because I read that actually the first aircraft was supposed to be delivered in January.
Right.
And the delays in executing payments and commitments on our side have made the company to push this, give us an extension to be able to raise the funds by, I think, April. So you get in a situation where you can't go back, and where even you have to keep going front even when you have challenges, and then you say we'll keep patching up these gaps as we move along.
Don't you get a feel that we are being prophets of doom? We are being typical Ugandans, where we complain and have arguments about almost everything that is suggested or put in place in the country. Don't you feel that we are only bringing, which is understandably a good idea to have our own airline, but do you think we're just coming up with excuses and conversations and fights about a good thing that is coming to the country?
For me, I think the whole project is a very good idea, and Ugandans actually ask these questions because they need clarity and they need to understand the business they are entering into as Ugandans. So for me, I don't think they are prophets of doom, because then we need to know, we need to be part of the whole process. Because you need to be take an example of what would have happened if we never had the minority report come. It's not about prophesying doom, it's about doing what is right. And quite often we tend to ask ourselves what would happen if we kept quiet. What would happen then? Should we cover all the rot and proceed? And then what would be the implication at the end of the day? So for me, this comes at a time when we need it. Right. Before we even go very far, let's have things put right. For me, I'm happy with the minister for having apologized, and then assured Ugandans that this will be addressed, going back now to deal with the details and have the right paperwork and have the right allocation of shares before we even have the planes here.
You know, someone actually did comment and say that were it not for those, you know, inquisitive members of parliament, you know, of course, in parliament, then some of these wrongs would not be uncovered, and so would still continue taking on the path of the wrong footing that we had started on. But I need our director to actually play this video of Parliament, the Parliament proceedings on Friday, and I'll need your take on this. What many actually did note was that Parliament was nearly empty on Friday, and still this was passed. My director will be getting that video in a short while, or us just getting to look at, you know, how members of parliament were not present on that particular day. What's your view on that? Just having a day where such a huge decision has to be made. Of course, we know that if this was not passed, of course, the government would stand to lose 27 million, you know, USD. Of course, that was the initial payment that was made to Bombardier for us to get this, you know, aircrafts. But what do you make of this? Such a huge decision that was was supposed to be made, but Parliament was half empty, so to speak. What do you make of this, sir?
The challenge with I must say, of course, many times we have seen decisions taken in Parliament at half population. And we also know that there are quite a number of decisions, mainly political in nature, which are taken when our parliament is full board. And this actually comes back now to questioning or trusting our institutions. Now, because parliament, for us, the citizens, the wananchi, would believe that actually our parliamentarians needed to speak for us on matters of national importance, including this one. And for me, if I'm a Ugandan citizen and my parliamentarian misses such debate, then I feel betrayed.
Right.
Because he's my representative in terms of deciding issues related to this business on my behalf. But for me, I think it is turning out to be a culture that Parliament prioritizes political-related debates than important developmental issues of this type.
Well, going forward, the policymakers have had their say. We're already on the way there. We are not going to cancel. We already we have the obligation to fulfill our side, play our part in this whole airline. Going forward, now that we know the wrongs that have been made, the minister has apologized. The other minister seems to agree. We have gotten to know the details that we know now. What do we need to do going forward? What needs to be done?
I think the idea here is we have to increase vigilance. For me, where I come from, the Uganda Contracts Monitoring Coalition and my own organization, Pro-Biodiversity Conservation in Uganda, we believe that at this stage, the citizens must be part of the process.
Right.
We must try to inquire for as much information as possible, and we need a government to bring us on board in terms of informing us on whatever happens at every stage. We also actually will do an initiative of requesting this contract. I believe it is public contract, so that we scrutinize and see, first of all, how did it go? How did we arrive at Bombardier in any case? Why not in another company? And what opportunities come on board with Bombardier, for example. And then we study the whole contract and advise government help even try to extend information to the rest of the citizens of Uganda.
You know, what you're saying is actually true, because the other issue that was raised on Friday in Parliament by Honorable, Odur, was that are we actually acquiring new jets or second-hand jets? You see, this is information that, like you're saying, these are speculations that are coming from a point of lack of transparency. We're not getting all the information that, pretty much ought to be on the public domain.
And you can never know if you don't access the contract itself.
True.
I know under the confidentiality clauses of ROs, you may not access all the details, because government has also to secure its commercial interests related to the contract. But we're entitled to some information. At a given degree, we need to be knowing exactly. Some of those questions should be easily addressed.
Okay. All right, interesting.
Yeah, very, very interesting take on that, and hopefully we'll have the airline up and running, and hopefully this.
No, I'll also be very happy to fly with the
Uganda Airlines.
Yes.
Do you think that with all this information given out to the public, and if everything is done the right way, do we have a bright future with Uganda Airlines, the new Uganda Airlines?
Absolutely. If you have the foundation very strong, there is nothing that stops us.
Well, clearly the foundation has been a bit messed up here and there.
But it's not all gone. We are saying we'll work with the government to fix it. Because for me, I'm saying this because I take the minister's word seriously. Because when the minister comes up and says, we have apologized, and Ugandans, please get rest assured that we'll put this right, and then we believe it will be done. So the next thing will be for us to ensure that what the minister says.
Many will say right there when the minister came up and apologized, and as much as it is a good thing, apologies need to be. Many people think those are things that we do at home, and even at home there are some apologies that may never be accepted or taken kindly. The minister's job is to make sure that these things go right. Many will feel like an apology is not the minister's job. The minister's job is to make sure that things happen in the right way.
One thing we have to admit in Uganda, it is only Uganda where we find, I think we have a feeling that sometimes the ministers, we have had cases where the ministers are blaming the technical people in their ministries. But for me, I think the minister's role is oversight. And you cannot play that role if you don't know the details. You know, very many cases we have our ministers appointed from different areas of specializations. We have a minister who is qualified in finance running an IT ministry. And for me, this is a very big challenge that Uganda is facing, because our ministerial posts, I think, may be given as a result of certain political commitment. Because if you compare with Kenya, for example, 60% of the ministers hold positions in areas where they have the technical expertise. You have engineers, road engineers, ministering or heading institutions of engineering.
Right.
But here it is quite a bit different. You have someone from a different area of specialization heading a ministry that is totally different. So it becomes a bit very hard for such a minister to actually dive into the details and discover the errors committed by the technocrats.
Right. So what you're saying is that they need to streamline and to make sure that there are no gaps that exist, especially now that we're expecting the two crafts to actually be delivered to us. Yes, this month on the 8th of April. So what should be the quick winners as we come to a close? Your quick pointers, if you're to advise them today, just look at that camera 3, that's yours. Talk to them today. What would you tell them as we come to a close? Yeah,
for me, the point here is that because, for example, the board is going to be disbanded and a new board appointed, the thinking is that we need to actually put in positions people that qualify for these positions. We don't need to be influenced by politics or influenced by any other dimensions to be able to provide these positions. Okay. You, for example, realize that some of the members are still active government officials, and then you tend to wonder how the board will run in an event that they have very many roles, and we are talking about an airline which is a sensitive business. So going down, we need to have a situation where we put the right people with the right qualifications in the right jobs.
All right. Okay, thank you so much for coming in studios, Mr. Paul Twebaze, the chairperson of the Uganda Contracts Monitoring Coalition. We were supposed to be joined by Captain Mike Omukula as well, as an expert in the aviation space, but unfortunately we could not. He could not make it this morning. But we hope that we'll get him in a later date, right here on the show. But what are your views? The hashtag is Morning at NTV across all the social media platforms. And just in case you're stepping out, hashtag Morning at NTV. Just go to our live stream on Facebook and YouTube and still be part of us. Drop your comments and we'll look at those. Right about now, we need to tell you how the roads look like. And so we are joined by Mr. Stephen Mbide. He is in Bunga to tell us how the roads look like on that end. Good morning, Stephen. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning to you. I'm coming to you from Amsterdam. This is the city of Netherlands, and I will be directing you whoever is heading towards Den Haag and The Hague and areas around.